I dove extremely deep into it from instead of everyone else, as I always do. I'm like, oh, merch. Let's start spending thousands of dollars on this. Oh, tattoos. Let's start spending thousands of dollars on this. Fucking go shoot my friends with plastic BBs from like a $2,000 gun that I bought. Let's go.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. Where do I fucking sign up?
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I'm here with Calgary's finest virgin, Mr. Wolfgang. Thanks for coming on the pod with me.
Nice to finally have an interview on here.
It's about time. I'm wanting to start a new segment of the podcast for anyone listening or watching. I'm all about the bevs. So whatever if you're listening or watching, pause it, or while I'm rambling, grab your bev, crack it. Let's all crack it. Oh, did you crack yours already?
I already cracked mine.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna do a countdown for anyone who's listening or watching. 3, 2, 1. And now we are into the bev zone. Well, you are just straight water and Red Bull.
I have to fuel my creatine somehow.
You're doing hydration and caffeine all in one go. Well, Wolfgang, exactly. For the few people that are listening or watching who might not know who you are, can you give me a little proper intro of how people would know you in hardcore and where you're based?
So I'm based out of Calgary, Alberta.
Yeah.
I've been going to shows for about 5-6 years, I want to say, around like that's when I got into like hardcore shows. At least I've been going to like pop punk and like emo kid shows since before that, because my sister worked at like at the New Black for people who are local and stuff. She worked there. She worked for Rebirth events, and she like ran doors there, so she would help me like get into shows. And it's kind of funny, she didn't like hardcore kids, and then I ended up getting into hardcore. It was kind of a funny like I know a lot of people that you don't like, kind of deal. But
that was it was very passed down as far as music in your family. Like your sister was like, come on through.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely say, well, that's how I met Remy. That's exactly how I met Remy. Was through he was supposed to play drums in my sister's pop punk band.
Get out.
Fun fact for anyone who knows Remy.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, but yeah, Calgary. Been going to shows for like 5-6 years. I don't know, most people here know that I'm very big into merch. I have a problem with that.
Yep. And we're definitely going to be talking about that. We're also going to be chatting about Endgame, which is the band that you front and I also play guitar in. So this is definitely it's funny because I know it's just going to be a chat with us. Like, we have band practice later tonight, but we're just chatting about things.
Like literally in like 4 hours?
Yeah, something like that. But Endgame is, I can't even recall the numbered of as far as how many projects I've been involved, but for you, it's your very first band. So I wanted to kind of dive into that a little bit more. Do you want to just give a little bit of context on how Endgame kind of came together, or the idea of us jamming together came to be?
So Endgame formed through, funny enough, our only ex-member, me and Chad Ruff, last year at me and him last year we kind of just like both arrived at DPK, like for Vancouver DPK 5-year. Around the same time, like our flights landed like an hour apart, so like we were hanging out a bunch that weekend. Just coincidentally, like we're hanging out a bunch, talking a bunch, and he had just had like a falling out with what was that band?
Foulmouth,
yeah. They had just kind of like stopped, and I remember that he said that you and him were talking about doing a project, and I was like, oh, me and Remy have been trying to make a project for like a year or two, and it's just always every time we find members, we kind of like get to know them for like 2 seconds, and then either it doesn't work out or it's like we find out something kind of like either like I don't know that we don't like or that just like in general it's like oh you probably shouldn't start a band with that kind of person,
Yeah.
like people that we just didn't really have like good connections with, or just we learned shitty things about people
Yeah.
while making stuff. So the fact that like I was like, well, I know you and Spence, and you guys know me and Remy, so that would like, and we all kind of seemed like to have like the same kind of ideologies of like musically, like what we wanted to do, because we were all like, well, you and Chad were supposed to like start like a crossover band of some sort, and me and Remy were like, fuck, we just want to start something. um and like yeah I talked with Chad, he talked with you, I messaged Remy, we all shot it up, and like literally within like one weekend we went from all of us trying to like start our own things to we finally formed something.
Right.
But the coolest thing I like about Endgame is like you were saying, it's my first band that I've ever been in a part of, that I'm fronting, and it's also Remy's first actual like project. But you and I guess even when we formed it with Chad, uh he's been in like I can't even count how many projects in
Right.
Calgary. He is like when I first got into the scene, that's pretty much how I got to know Chad, was that I was like he'd play almost every show I'd go to.
Right.
So I
Playing bands like
always got to saw him
Setback
like
and Foul Mouth was kind of
Step
more timely,
Back,
but yeah.
fuck, I think he was in a band called like Nail Bomb.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Just a lot of bands over the years, but that and like yeah, just a lot of that kind of stuff like got me to know him. So
yeah. And
but
and yeah, like
yeah.
I think I agree that, me and Chad definitely maybe had more on our hardcore resume, but like I'm always a big fan of when a band forms and it's bringing like not like it's bringing new faces into the scene because you and Remy were like at every show moshing for mostly every band.
Yeah,
But as
because
far
well,
as
yeah,
putting
Remy is
someone on the stage, that's always gets me excited. It's like, oh yeah, like here's this kid that I have
well,
only seen. Yeah.
I've wanted to front a hardcore band ever since I was like legitimately in high school, I'd
Yeah.
say. Even before that, like I've always been very like I've had a very like big draw to like music, it's like heavier side of music ever since I was in like junior high school. So but I'd always like been like I want to do something like this. I want to get into a band. I want to start something. But like for the longest time it was I don't know, more fantasy. Like I don't play any instruments personally. I mean, I would like to like now that I've like fronted a band, I would like to like have another aspect of a band, like learn bass, guitar, or something. Uh, kind of like try it out, you know. Uh,
Yeah,
I
and
just
it was just
fucking
funny
make
that
more
it took
bands.
going to Vancouver, and I remember
Yeah, it took
vividly
us.
standing on the Biltmore Cabaret like stage floor and just being like, "Well, we're all from Calgary and we all want to be in a band, so like
We
might as
all
well do that
left.
when we get back home."
Yeah, it took us all to leave Calgary, go to Vancouver to decide we should start a band.
Right.
Um, yeah, I know, but like, yeah, ever since I don't know, ever since I got into heavy music, I've always wanted to like, especially like be like a vocalist, like front a band, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
When I first got into shows, I like made friends with a lot of like crucial people in like the Calgary scene. But like people who were like in like crucial bands, stuff like that, and like I don't know, I started like doing just little guest spot things, and I
Right.
really I was like I really want to like this. I don't know, it brings me a really nice like drive. Um, got me like really into it, got me really like invested in shows, and I was just like, I want more of this, but like in my own personalized, like like
Yeah.
my band
Yeah, your
kind
own
of deal.
spin on it. And that was definitely something that I saw like filming a lot of shows in Calgary. It was like, okay, like there's definitely a series of Wolfgang call it guest vocal missteps as far as like the mic being unplugged or whatever. And but like what was despite all that, I think what
Yeah,
was always funny is just your energy and your passion behind your vocals. I was like, okay, there's something there, and I think given the right opportunity in a band, that it can just be more well oiled. But
exactly. Yeah,
some of those mishaps, happened. You were just dealt a bad hand, I think.
yeah. One of them was jumped into the song too early, and I was like, what am I fucking doing? And everyone in the band was like, what are you fucking doing?
um, for
But I
anyone who's listening,
redemption.
yeah, and I definitely want to make sure this podcast is not me just talking about
Yeah,
my band, but if there is anyone who's listening who is curious, we did name the band prior to the Avengers movie
that
coming
was
out.
we named it at least a year. I think me and I think I came up with that name with Remy like over a year before that movie even like had a trailer out.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
when we finally started playing shows was like a couple months after it, and we're like, well, that's unfortunate.
yeah. And if you do go back, if you want to look back at some of the scoped sets of Endgame, our very first show, we decided to do like a Endgame sample to kind of open it up, and then the sample got fucked up at the end, and we're like, okay, well, let's keep
We only
going.
got to use half. We only got to use
Actually,
half
on
the
the first
sample.
set, I cut it because I was just like, okay, this is just too embarrassing.
Just fucking cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
know.
was that just the process of like playing, just starting to play in a band and starting to, know your rhythm as far as like commanding a crowd and just doing vocals in a live setting versus just at jam? Was that daunting for you? Because I think
Oh,
talking about that would
absolutely.
be good, for people who like want to start a band or want to do vocals in a band, but they've never done it in that kind of full bore
Well,
live aspect.
it was nice because like I mean like I'm not shy around the whole fact of well, I don't know. I've done like guest spots like for bands before, so I like kind of like knew it. It was like so I wasn't like completely out of my element, I guess, getting into it,
Mhm.
starting it out. Um, it could be a bit daunting. Especially I don't know, first band, never done a show before in front of people. Kind of like can be like, a little nerve wracking. I mean, I have a speech impediment and like I've got a fucking stutter. As if you know me, you know me.
Right.
You know me, you know I have a fucking stutter, and you know everyone, everyone, including myself, jokes around with it.
Mhm.
But um, I'm happy that doesn't come out at all when I'm doing vocals and shit. But uh, well, you know how I mean, it took me forever to finally lock down lyrics and stuff like that. So I guess that was the one part of like trying to get everything. I'm not the best at like lyrically speaking my mind. I guess always it's kind of hard for like for me personally to get what I have in my head onto paper,
Gotcha.
as we've learned over the last years of took us till we literally recorded to finally have a 100% set in stone
Right.
lyrics kind of thing. But I think that was probably one of the most daunting things for me personally is trying to remember
Just
shit. I've got a I mean, I have a good memory, but a bad memory when it comes to like what I'm saying kind of
yeah.
thing.
But I've seen a plethora of bands who are like call it more in the professional realm of things. Oh, someone's like moving something outside. I was like, "What's going on?" But in the professional realm, where they'll switch lines in like a verse or something just on accident. But yeah, like I think that is just a muscle that needs to be worked. And we're as far as the time of recording this, it's going to be just before our demo drop. Someone could be listening to this years past, and we have
Three
multiple
days.
releases, 3 days. But yeah, I think that just it comes with practice. Some people are going to be naturally better out the gate with it than others, and I think like this. I think a thing for me, and this is a little self reflective, is like I get like I almost think about like lyrical placement, not necessarily words, while I'm writing the material,
Yeah,
but
which was nice. Kinda. I'm not as good as that.
yeah.
You're better at that kind of deal. You
But
know.
sometimes you would bring something to the table. I'm like, that's 10 times better than what I thought of, anyways. And it,
Yeah,
like, I think you have a knack for it already. So
getting better.
yeah, slowly but surely. And definitely we'll be talk. Me and Wolfgang are actually doing a podcast on my friend Jamie Orquette's Park podcast. Just in well, we're doing it tomorrow, but it's going to come out the day after, and we'll probably dive more into lyrical content and things like that. So that's a little plug for Jamie. As far as you know, as endgame things are concerned, um, what is I was thinking about this the other day because as far as when we're going to put this out, we're not going to be able to play shows. Who knows how long
Or
afterwards?
fucking
So
like 10 years.
yeah, 10 years. Let's hope not. But I thought it was kind of interesting that because it is not the standard, but like a lot of people in hardcore are like, oh, the demo first and then playing shows and stuff like that. But we kind of did a
We
reverse,
kind of
and
skipped that, but at the same time, from many people, and like for many of the homies, they were like, "Nah, Endgame gets the pass." And I was happy about that, but because I very much so didn't want. I would have rather we got out the demo first, but I mean, how it all fell together, it didn't really work out that way. And then, I mean, it's taken at least an extra like 5 or 6 months to record this, and we planned because I literally was actually when I was going over one of our last shows just on Scope. I forget why, but at the very beginning, we literally like after like the second song or third song, like you literally go like, and the demo's coming. We start recording next week, and I think we tracked drums, and then COVID hit, and every work shut down, and nobody wanted to fucking record us.
yeah, because a lot of people were either had like the basement
Everyone that
studio.
everyone that we knew had like basement studios or something like that, and then like lived with like family or like other people that didn't really want people in there over like
Right.
strict lockdowns and shit like that.
Well,
So
I
it was
think
like
in March too, everyone was like, well, like, do I want to go out and
that
like
was
it
like
was so
that was the worst of it.
unknown at that time.
That was the worst of it. That was when everyone was like fucking self isolate so we can go outside soon.
Right.
And I literally like went bought like $500 worth of groceries and sat playing Call of Duty for like days on end.
March was the month of the gamers for sure. Just all the Animal Crossing, all of Call of Duty,
The amount of
all
days
the
that I added onto
Master
my
Chief
hours of
Collection.
progress.
Yeah, ridiculous. But I think that is kind of interesting that like even though we necessarily didn't do the traditional like hardcore route, once we put this out, people can still go and look back at like shows where we played those songs, even slightly different variations of some of those songs,
They
and people
always
are going off.
I don't
So
think we
it
I
is kind of
almost never
interesting on
played the
how,
same thing twice.
yeah. Well, it is interesting because like there is still like a lot of cool bands coming out. Like shout out Abrasion, Pain of Truth, where
The
like I
homies.
would love to see those riffs being played live, and whether those were call it quarantine bands
But
or
I mean, who
not,
knows how long we will
who
go
knows?
before we get to see those bands play a show, if ever.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to see both of those bands, especially Abrasion, especially honestly both of them equally.
Yeah.
Abrasion would be sick because it's the homies, but Pan of Truth has been one of my like most listened to demos, I'd say, of
Right.
2020. So they have like the quarantine demos. But yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. I really am excited for whenever the fuck shows come back. Hopefully it's not like 5, 10 years, till we get to play shows. Hopefully it's something a little bit more in the realms of like being, I mean, I can expect that we won't have shows for a minimum at least 1 year,
Yeah.
maybe two, depending on how the world does stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now at least we have like for stuff going on, we have still like live stream shows kind of.
Yeah.
It's not the same, but at least it's still a form of somewhat live music. I haven't watched one of them in a while. I think the last one I watched was the Year of the Knife one, and I almost put a hole in Nikki's wall, I think. But
Yeah, but it's a group effort, and I think that there may be people who aren't abiding by some of the like call it physical distancing rules or guidelines. They were like, well, I can pass up going to Coachella or whatever for
actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, there have been shows, really bad shows.
Right.
There was like a show in Long Island where there was like a beat down band show or something like that. I saw on Twitter and people were like, "Damn, people really risk their lives to hear this," and I was like, "They ain't wrong."
Yeah. There's also Smash Mouth and Trapped doing a show where they were like "fuck masks" or whatever.
We don't talk about Trapped.
We don't talk about Trapped.
We don't talk about Trapped.
They don't get
Getting
no
worse and
mention
worse.
on this podcast. But kind of transitioning gears now. Like you mentioned at the beginning, you're a big merch guy. You have tons of merch. I'm curious on how many articles you actually
Everything.
have.
I
don't know
don't
if you
even
have
want to
if you have
consider.
counts.
On the stuff that I'm selling alone, I have at least 2 or 3 like of like the really big like Rubbermaid bins upstairs in like our spare bedroom.
Of selling?
That's what I'm selling. That's only half the stuff I have like on my
Damn.
Depop. Like I have about two, I think like two fucking bins of stuff I still have to post.
What's your Depop?
I think it's Cause of Death. I don't know if there's any X's or anything. There's probably X's in it. Um, X's in every
Probably.
part of my name. I
Yeah.
don't even spell my name normally when I write it on social media. I put an X instead of an A in my name.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I have way too much fucking shit. I have spent more money on merch than almost anything else that I've ever done. The only things that come close, tattoos that I have are nothing close. I haven't gotten tattooed in like I've gotten tattooed twice this last year. I went off when I was like 18, 19, but like merch is like something consistent. I see something that I like and I'm like, buy it.
Yeah.
I think Rachel's literally sending me like 3 or 4 or 5 shirts that she's like gotten me that I bought like off people. It's all Tampa band. It's all Florida bands too. It's all like 3 knee deep, point of contact, and like seat of pain stuff.
Yeah. Sick.
But like she's like sending me a package that has a whole bunch of that stuff. But no,
So this is a pretty like level one answer, but I think that there's probably a lot that we can unpack here. Um, what what's the most important thing when a band is making a piece of merch? Is it the design of the shirt? Is it the actual shirt it's
what
being
it's printed on. What it's printed on is one of the biggest things. Depending on the band, I'll like usually I don't know. It depends on what the garment is that it's printed on. My favorite is Comfort Colors,
Okay.
but I mean
Shout
that's
out
a lot of
Comfort Colors.
that's a lot of people's favorites though because they just fit nice. They're expensive to print on though, but they fit nice. No, fucking. I'd say probably what stuff is printed on is one of my biggest things I look at. I don't know. Designs are also good, but I mean every band's stuff is different, I guess.
I think the design maybe gets you in the door, but the shirt
Yeah,
quality makes it something that you wear
the
probably
shirt
more
quality is what
often.
makes me
Yeah,
the shirt quality and like what it's printed on makes me is what something I look for just because yeah, it makes me decide on if I'm gonna wear stuff because I've had hoodies that I've been like I love this design the hoodie fits me like shit because it's on like Hanes or something like that. And
or
every time
like
I've
Fruit
worn
of the
every
Loom or what
I
have
like
you.
Fruit of the Loom. I fuck with Fruit of the
Oh, you
Loom.
do fuck with Fruit of the Loom. Okay.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. So like that like mid 2000s Fruit of the Loom. That's like really good shit. For some reason, it fits all over the place. I have stuff that's like mediums that fits like larges or like and like 2XLs that fit like XLs or in like
Okay.
baggy larges. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't know. The fucking the array of vast different sizes that I have of shirts never ceases to
Do you
amaze me.
normally know like, okay, if this is printed on like let's say it's all style, like I'm this size, and if it's on Gildan heavy, whatever, I'm this
Gildans
size?
are XL. Gildans are XL. Comfort Colors are large. All styles are large. Fruit of the Loom is wild card because it's always changing. I don't know what the fuck's up with Fruit of the Loom. I have this one kickback like from when they did like the reprints of the older, colder, stronger. Like I don't even know when, but I have that in a 2XL. Fits me like it's a large.
Crazy.
I also have like XLs of those that fit like 3XLs. It's like it's absolute wild card.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a big thing. Like whether I was buying band merch or any shirts of any nature, I'm always like, okay, what the fuck is this printed on? So I can at least make a guesstimation, like versus if it's gonna be larger XL. Because for
Yeah,
me, I'm a lanky ass dude, so like I have body for
same.
days.
Canada's a lot of lanky ass guys here.
That's true.
I don't know
Shout
why.
out
Western
to
Canada lanky ass
shout out to
boys.
Luca, lanky mosh only. As far as
Whenever I post a video of Luca, all my American friends are just like, "Damn, y'all got some lanky ass boys over there."
it's true. Country of the lank. As far as merch goes, what's the most amount of money that you've spent on one piece of one item?
I think the most expensive that I've ever bought is around $300
Okay.
on items. Uh, I'd say like the two. I'd say off the top of my head, probably like the two most expensive things that I have in my like in my possession are I have a Life of Agony shirt right there that's like you could resell for like 400 US
Damn.
that I
Okay.
bought for like around like 250 I think Canadian,
Mhm.
but it doesn't fit me. Sadly, I bought it. It's an
No,
XL. It's
no.
it's like an XL or a large, and it fits like a fucking medium. And I'm like, stare. I just have it on my wall, and I just stare at it just every day that I go to the gym. It fits me a little bit less.
Damn.
That and I have like one of the when Foundation did Turncoat, they did like almost like a test pressing variant.
Okay.
It's not a test pressing, but they did. It was the first batch they did of Turncoat, and it has a. It's just a white. Why is the word escaping me? The cover is just it's just white and it's screen printed with like they took like an actual like stamp and just like stamped on like Foundation
Oh, I
Turncoat
see.
all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And then I don't remember if it's hand numbered or not, but they're out of 100 I believe. uh
Mm.
it has like a eulogy or something like that in it. uh like it has like this really nicely like typed up like eulogy about the band, like thanking people
Oh,
because
cool.
it
Okay.
was because they knew that they were because it was like it was their last release when they broke up. It was all that type of stuff, being like thanking people for like who have like supported them over the years. And then on the actual like disc, uh, the side A and side B were are like stamped like with one X for A and then two X's for B, and then that's it. Like it's like the most blank variant ever, but it sells for like 300 Canadian, I believe, and
So
like
crazy. You s-
no. I haven't gotten too many like expensive things in the last little while. Like I've been getting a lot of like cooler like like as my merch collecting has gone over the years. Like when I first got into it, and like even like the last like couple of years, like it's only in the last like year or two I'd say
Mhm.
that I've really stopped like sort of like slowing down or like buying things that I only know that I'll wear, and then I even when I don't. But
Right.
I've sort of like obviously as hardcore kids get going and buying like vintage things more so, like a lot more, a lot more vintage shit. Um, but I've had a lot of luck. I don't know. I've had a lot of luck, mostly thrifting in Vancouver and finding like OG merch. I think I got this for like
Yeah, Vancouver's actually good for
really,
hardcore
really cheap.
thrifting. Yeah.
I've thrifted like OG Throwdown stuff, Sick of It All stuff, just like for really cheap. There's this one guy at Vintage Mall over there, but uh, no, I haven't really bought a whole lot of like super overly expensive things. The last thing that I bought that was overly expensive was that Life of Agony shirt that I stare at
That
every
just
day.
teases you every single
Haunts me,
day.
haunts me every day. I love it so much, but it haunts me every day.
Would you ever
Um,
consider reselling that eventually?
yeah, I'm really in the middle of like of reselling it so that I could try and invest in a larger size of it or something else that's
I
really
see.
cool.
I see.
Um,
Cool.
yeah, no, but yeah, I've just like been buying like vintage posters, vintage records, vintage shirts,
Yeah.
trying to find what I can find that's not like gonna break my bank,
Right.
especially because of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think like merch is such a it's a huge like cornerstone aspect of just DIY hardcore music is concerned
Yeah.
because you go to a show or a festival and you
Well,
could
it's a sick way to like put on for your homies or help touring bands, stuff like that. Like that's ultimately what got me so like obsessed almost with
yeah.
like buying copious amounts of merch because like dude, straight up last year Wild Rose, no, not last year, 2 years ago Wild Rose, when I was like helping out with like putting up and taking down everything with
Mhm.
Nate and everyone. Um, I had like my bag, like I had like my like Good Life duffel bag just packed with fucking merch that I had bought. I had literally bought like I bought the entire Stepping Stone spread that they had out. Plus, I had like the pre-order jersey, like with like individual like nicknames on them
Right.
for like the
Yeah.
close homies.
Yeah.
Um, and like I think I bought like a test press because they were like, oh fuck, we found like 5 test presses for like test of character. They were just like, fuck it, let's just sell them for like $10 each. So I got to complete my Stepping Stone test of character 7 inches collection
Yeah.
with that. But no, like straight up like Luke. grabbed my duffel bag being like, oh yeah, because it had so much stepping stone merch like piling out of it. It had like 6 stepping stone shirts and the jersey just like heaping out of it. He's like, oh yeah, this is totally one of our merch bags. And he started like walking away with it. And I was like,
Oh
where's
no!
all my merch?
He's like
like,
opening. He's like, where? What are? This isn't our band.
I think I went outside and was like, who the fuck took my bag? And he was just like walking back. He's like, I think this is yours.
That's really funny. Yeah, but it is a way if you just go and you can see like, oh, like there, that's a vegan straight edge band. I'm vegan straight edge, and you are, and then that's a way that you can make that like kind of
Oh yeah.
connection or at least icebreaker.
I mean, hell, even if you're not vegan straight edge and you're like, hell yeah, I like this Eco Strike shirt.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like I think again, like designs kind of get you in the door. They catch your eye and make
Yeah.
you want to. And then if it's like, oh, it's printed on Champion, you're like, okay, well, the Futurama, like take my money, kind of thing. Is there any hardcore merch cliches that you are tired of seeing, or kind of turn you off if you see a certain style?
I'd say dad hats sometimes, depending on it,
Okay.
are starting to become more, I don't know, something that I don't like myself as much. Depends on it. Depends on what kind of hat it's printed on,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know. Merch cliches that I'm tired of, I can't really think of right now. Like, I'm drawing a blank on this
No,
one.
that's fine. I do think that there is that risk with certain bands. They're like that instead of it being like, oh, here's a hoodie or a new T-shirt design. Like I would see bands like when Drain was doing, they did those like fanny pack like shoulder bags.
Okay, there. I
Which are
guess
pretty cool.
that's one that I'm guilty of hopping on it. I'm not saying I don't like them. It's just people kind of like abused like side bags and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak. I have all 3 of the Trail of Lies fanny packs. I've got like 3 Serration fanny packs that they did that not
Oh,
many
I
people
forgot
know
that they
today.
did fanny packs. Actually, yeah.
That was from their weird little merch run that they didn't like. They had some like record label or something like that be like, hey, can we like make you guys a bunch of hoodies? And they were like, what? And they're like, yeah, no, like, can we like make a bunch of hoodies for you? You guys sell them, or like we'll sell them for you guys, but like we won't ask anything from you. They literally were just like, here, let's make you some hoodies. Let's help you like get out there and do shit.
Yeah.
And then they did like, I don't know. It was a small amount. It was a small batch of hoodies, like maybe like 20, 30 hoodies on like the burgundy, on like that like maroon
Oh
burgundy
yeah,
color with like the gray ink.
those ones.
Those
Yeah.
ones, Serration, like they were approached to have those made for them, and then
Wow.
they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're also making like 3 of each colorway of these fanny packs. They had like 4 colorways, and they had like 3 of each fanny packs. I think I had like 2 or 3 of those, and then they did, I think, 3 individual printed hoodies. They did a yellow one on medium Champion, I think. They did a forest green hoodie that was, I think it's an XL or a large. I have that one. And then there's a 2XL that has bounced around between a bunch of my friends that I didn't even know it. Bobby Spencer originally had it. It's like a double XL lime green one, and then my friend in Florida, Carter, ended up having it. When I went to LDB. I was just like, we were just like kind of hanging out, and he was like folding it, and I was like, where the fuck did you get that hoodie from? Like, that's the only one of
Did
its
he
color.
buy it off of Bobby? Because
Yeah,
Edmonton
Bobby.
and Florida are just very, very far.
I know. I know. Yeah, you bought it off of Bobby for a bunch of money. No,
Wow.
like, people in Florida fuck heavily with Serration.
Oh, I can
And
imagine.
just Canadian hardcore for some reason. I remember on that drive, like, my friend was like, why the fuck did Sedition break up? Like, and I was like, I can't even tell you, man.
Let's not get into that.
Let's not get into that one.
Yeah. No, I that's something that I've definitely in our band's world. I'm fully leaving with you in the merch department, because I can come up with some like half-ass ideas, but like I feel like you're clearly so obsessed with it, so you would have the best ideas as far as designs and materials and whatnot.
I have a lot of stuff up
Yeah,
my sleeve for stuff I want to do
yeah.
in the
I
future.
I think we will be doing some kind of shirt,
I would love to do some sort of a shirt
kind of
drop with
immediately after the release. So if you like Endgame,
yeah, yeah.
check that out. But another thing you're really involved in is airsoft.
Airsoft, hell yeah, let's bring that into the podcast.
So
Yeah, I've been
tell me how you got into that. Because you're pretty suited. You know, a lot of people suit up for Sunday church, but you suit up for Sunday airsoft. That's your religion. But
I go drive like 40 minutes south of fucking Calgary and shoot my friends with plastic while I'm dressed up super like it's Call of Duty.
yeah,
Um,
amen.
I've been into that for like 3 years now. It's not something popular that I've seen in like I have not ever seen anyone else in like really like the hardcore scene here at least, or even like most of my friends. Like I post a lot on my Instagram. And I always like I remember when I first got into it, I had a lot of people always like being like, "Is this what is this?" Like the people
Are
being
you
like, "You're in
joining
Canada." Like
Are you
people
joining the
being
military? Like, what's
people
happening?
being like, "You're in Canada. You guys don't have gun laws that allow you to do that kind of shit." And I'm like, "No, I know we don't. That's why I do. That's why I do it with fake shit." No, I got to like around 3 years ago with like one of like my best friends that I've known since like grade seven. Me and him have just like we lived like back like before I moved in January. Me and him have lived like practically next door from each other since we were in grade seven,
Oh, okay.
and we went to the same junior high. All like didn't go to the same high school, but we still stayed connected because we were like literally lived like walking distance from each other's houses. But one day he got into it. He just went and like bought like this cheap gun. He kind of just got into it, and then he was like, "Hey, you should come along with me because I mean, we play video games together. You would like this stuff." We got into it with a group of our friends. And since then, I dove extremely deep into it from instead of everyone else, as I always do. I'm like, oh, merch. Let's start spending thousands of dollars on this. Oh, tattoos. Let's start spending thousands of dollars on this. Fucking go shoot my friends with plastic BBs from like a $2,000 gun that I bought. Let's go.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. Where do I fucking sign up? No, yeah, I've been playing that for 3 years. Yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, it appeals to a lot of my like very like pro gun friends, especially in like the states and stuff like that. Um, I've had tons of people here. I've had tons of friends like in the hardcore scene who are like, "Yo, like let me like come out and do that with you." And I still have yet to have somebody like have like one of my friends from like a different like friend group come out and play that, like especially somebody from like the hardcore scene. A lot of the people that like have like been interested in it are all like very they're all like the very like aggressive like moshers or like very like gym savvy people I find.
Gotcha.
So I'm like you guys will do great out there. Um,
And tell me, like, because I don't know if it's, and this is me being like knowing next to nothing about airsofting and going paintballing once in my life, but
yeah,
is there like a certain, like, different kinds of guns you can get, as far as like, oh, I'm gonna be more of like a tactical sniper and kind of camp
yeah,
somewhere,
you
versus
can.
someone who's like having something that's a little bit more for a multi-purpose use?
Yeah, there. I mean, there's different. Like there's different like kind of like ways you can upgrade guns, stuff like that. Like when you first get into it, almost anything you have, like whether it's a sniper, which are usually like spring operated, or like an electric gun AEGs are what they're called. Those are like the most. That's what I started out with when I got into airsoft. I bought like this like $200 M4A1 AEG electric gun. They don't have a whole lot of range. Like you can like fiddle with them. They have like a little like they have like a hop up chamber that like kind of like puts a curve on your BB, like makes it like actually like shoot further
Oh,
distances
okay.
instead of just like compressing air out of it and just so. But regardless, you get it kind of sucks because it is in the end almost like you get what you pay for in some senses.
Right.
I started out with bad guns, and I started playing with people who were very welcoming to me, and they were very aggressive players. So like in order to get that range out of your gun, you had to like really like be aggressive, push, fight for it kind of deal.
Right.
So I kind of learned that like before I ever really started like dumping like over $1,000 over like almost like $2,000 into like a single gun.
Right.
Um,
Is that
I know
probably
people.
the biggest difference between like paintball and airsoft is because
Yes,
like paintball is like, okay, here's the map.
paintball you have about a quarter of the range no matter what. Like
Right. And everyone
a
kind of has somewhat of the same gun range wise, but
Yeah,
airsoft you can
it
kind of
depends on like
yeah.
if you're paintballing just with like a group of friends, everyone's using rental guns and it's you have like 10 meters, 20 meters, like 20, like 10 meters, 20 meters at like most if you're lucky. Like it's very like very small. Like people think it has more range than it does, but it's very small. Um no, yeah, that's one of the bigger things with like airsoft is it's a lot more distance between you and people at a lot of the time. There's a lot more to take into account when you're playing it. There's a lot of like strategies you have to do with it. Like this last weekend, I went up to Edmonton and played at. I'm friends with like the field owner at this place and like the team that plays at my local field. And I've been playing with them for like 2 or 3 years or whatever. But they were hosting their first like large scale event where it's like over 100 players. And we had like a Humvee and a technical convoy that we had to
Oh wow.
like escort through the map. Uh, and the people that I was playing, like the little like squad that I was kind of like sticking with, like of like my like close homies who like all play on this team, was, I mean, I have a very like intermediate, well, not intermediate. I have a very like
Moderate
I have a
probably.
very mid to like I have a very like mid range gun. Like I can do.
Oh, okay,
It's
gotcha.
good with close engagements. It can engage long range. It's not set up as like a long range gun, but it can meet it can outrange a lot of people
Sure.
because I've spent a lot of money on it. But um so yeah, we I had I think that my one friend who has a really who's probably one of like the best snipers that I've played with ever.
Okay.
Um and then I had like two people who were running like uh grenade launcher rounds and on their guns. So we were using that to like disable the convoy when we were on the defending side. Uh
Or
but
attacking side, do you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
we because we switched it up like throughout the day. Like first we
Oh,
started
okay,
as
yeah, together.
attackers,
Yeah, I
and
got
then
you.
after
Okay.
that first game, it was like a 2 hour, 2.5 hour long game. Later in the afternoon, we defended.
Mhm.
But we had a very like one person covered long range, one covered person covered like medium, and then like kind of like space it out between a couple different like flanks and stuff like that.
So I have to ask, what's an airsoft grenade launcher look like? Because when I think of like I think of the noob tube in any
That and
Call of Duty.
it's
It
exactly what it is.
oh,
And
so there is an actual like small particle explosion of some kind.
Yeah, the what we use are called tag rounds, and they fire these little chalk rounds. Like it looks exactly like an M203, like a real M203 grenade, but it's blue,
Okay.
and it shoots out of it. And when it impacts, there's a lot of different ones. There's pyro ones. There's one that like when they detonate, they have like a timer, and then they detonate. There's ones that you fire, and then they have BBs come out of them when they're in the air.
Yeah.
But the ones we were using were chalk, and when they like impacted the vehicle, which is what we use, or like a wall beside somebody, it would hit them, and it's a huge. There's like really aggressive pink cloud of smoke that will just literally get on everything it touches. It
Okay.
touches you, and it's just on you.
Yeah.
It's on you till you wash that shit off.
Hmm. That's really cool though. That it's probably the closest thing to like call it, that the
It's
actual
exactly
aspect of
whenever somebody
Call of
asks me
Duty
like
going
what
on.
it's like, I say it's like you're playing Call of Duty in real life, is what I say.
Right.
Um, there are more serious like milsim operations that you can go to
Right.
where they handle it a lot more like a real life scenario. Those are not what I play. Like I would love to go to one that's a lot more like that,
Yeah.
but what I play is honestly, if I was to sum it up, it's legitimately a day of I go out and play Call of Duty in real life for a day.
Which is pretty sick. And you were saying like you really haven't run into many folks who do airsoft and are into hardcore as well.
It's like there's a lot of people who are like they're like into like metal out there, like obviously like that kind of stuff. But like
Mhm.
I've never really met people in like the actual in like hardcore scenes that really are into it. Definitely not the capacity that I'm at into it. I know a couple of people who are like, oh yeah, like I played like paintball for a couple of years, or oh
Right.
yeah, I played like airsoft for like a little here and there. Like I've seen people who did it in the past. Actually, oh, what is his name? It's drawn a blank from me. Now that I think about it, I was out for drinks with Jessa. Like they were all having drinks. I was having Red Bull, kind of a
Right.
deal. Um,
Were
and
you Wolfgang? I'm just
Matt,
kidding.
uh, do you know Matt? He was in. I think he was in Setback. I think.
Guitar?
I think so.
He has like
Um,
the Explorer, the crazy shaped looking one.
I think so.
Okay.
I remember when they took promo shots. He was wearing like a Nickelback shirt, if I remember correctly. Um,
Okay.
we were out and Jordan from what's in Step Jordan from Foulmouth. I forget what band he was in at the time when I met him,
Right.
but um, he introduced us, and it turned out like Matt's quite a bit older than me. Now that like I'm like really thinking about this, he actually he is one person who he's a lot older than me, but when he was my age, he also was into airsoft around the same capacity as I am. Me and him literally like sat down for like 2 or 3 hours to talk about it. I remember like while we were all at like pin bar or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, other than him, there's not a whole lot of people I can think of, and he's not into it anymore. Really, like he does a lot of like real steel shooting right now,
Mm.
but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm always like wanting to showcase the stuff that people in hardcore are into outside of just music overall. Like I know my homie Trenton is like super into BMX, and like not
Yeah,
a ton of people are into that. But like hearing that,
I've seen a couple people that are like decently into that in hardcore. I mean, Sunny like 856.
right? Yeah, Sunny. But I think it's like it's definitely a minute like niche versus like tons of people are into merch or tons of people are into breakdowns or
Like
what have
into
you.
like collecting stuff like that. Like it's interesting to like see things that like hobbies that aren't as like common. Like people in hardcore scene, like a lot of people are into like collecting music related items, powerlifting, uh or like some other good one. I don't know, like
Even like
skateboarding.
yeah, skateboarding's huge. Like even I've seen like a lot of like doggo owners like myself, like as far as like meeting other people who have either a similar breed of my dog or just like who have different types of dogs that I don't know of and just talking about that. So yeah,
Yeah,
I like to dive into those because I think it kind of brings people a little bit more together, just that much more versus like, oh, you like metalcore and I like New York hardcore or 90s hardcore,
yeah.
whatever it is. We're all, unique and have all these different interests. Um, well, Wolf, we can kind of start to wrap up. Maybe we can kind of end it on the end game stuff, and we'll definitely. I want to push people to Jamie's podcast because we're going to talk about that probably really heavily tomorrow. But as far as what you're most excited for when this comes out, what's the first thing off the top of your head? Is it the lyrics you wrote? Is it just the songs in general? The artwork that we put together?
All
What?
of it. I'm really excited for people to see the artwork. That's something I've been very excited because we've had that for quite a while.
Yeah.
Very excited to put that out for me. I'm excited to put that out for because Rachel did it. She could finally post it and show people the full thing. She showed a teaser like months ago when she painted it,
Yeah.
but I'm very excited to show people that. I'm really
Is her
excited to just
last name actually Arts with a Z?
yes,
That's
yes.
crazy.
Everyone thinks that it's just that like that because like it's like oh
That
on her
she's an
art account like
artist, but it's
Rachel
actually
Arts like
Arts.
kind of thing. Yeah, that's I mean I'm not gonna lie. When I first met her, I thought the same. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna
Damn, dude,
lie.
that's a pretty unique last name. So that's
We have very unique names.
that's true as well.
um, but yeah, no. I think I'm just really excited to finally show people this. Like everyone's heard this, heard everything, but when we finally got the masters of everything, like, compared to even the second last mix, I was like, "Okay, this is pretty sick." Like, this is pretty much how we sounded like when we were recording it, kinda deal. Um, when we got those masters and heard everything finally together, masters had the samples on there, had all the effects that we added, just everything all together, seeing the album art, hearing all the homie parts on there. I'm I'm really excited to show people the homie spots on there.
Yeah, I'm I'm
That's one of my things I'm most excited for people to finally hear those fucking homie things.
yeah, no, I'm super excited for those as well. I think, you know, I think when we originally started jamming, I definitely wanted to do it definitely like more in the thrash realm, but I think we just got more like
We have
thrash,
a
but
very
like
we have a
it's a
very
perfect
vast
balance
majority. Like
of
there's a
hardcore
lot
and
exactly.
thrash,
Yeah,
in
there's a
my opinion.
lot. It definitely like thrash was I'd say like thrash kind of was like what like drew us in. Like it was our original like kind of like what we like shaped things around. But we have a lot of different elements on it.
Yeah,
But no, we have a very nice balance of everything. Is what I've also just heard from people just in general, like when they see us, kind of
yeah,
deal. Um,
something for everyone.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, no, I think what I'm most excited for is just to finally have like some like my band on like available for people to hear. Like finally have like if it feels a lot more like surreal. It feels like more like wow, like my band has actually accomplished something. I've actually accomplished something as like a band in my band, like as a musician kind of deal.
mhm.
I was talking with Nathan from Stepping Stone actually the other day about it. Like I was like showing him like a couple like riffs from it being like because Chris mastered it and
Yeah.
mixed it
Shout out,
and all
Chris.
that. Shout out Chris.
He really brought it together. Like
Yeah,
exactly
I
what I
was
wanted for it.
honestly this demo would not sound how it does without Chris. So big love, mad love for that guy.
Yeah.
Um, no, I was showing it to like a couple things just like to Nathan, just to be like, yo, like Chris is a fucking god. Like, how the fuck did he pull this shit off? Like, I can't believe this shit Athlete is like something that like my like I can't believe this is my band. Like I put like work into this and the athlete like got somebody to sound like this fucking cool. I just I never in a million years thought I'd be able to like put out like a band that sounds something like what I have put like we put out what we're putting out in 3 days.
Right.
And yeah, he was just like honestly like soak it in. It's a great feeling to find. It's a very nice like feeling of accomplishment and pride towards something. I'm just really excited to share it with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my friend Adam from way back when I think said it best that there's certain things in the realm of playing music that are kind of momentary, like they fulfill you as far as like playing a show and being in the moment of all that. But then there's things that take longer but are more they just last longer as far as appreciation wise. And putting this together and dropping it on the 30th of August, 1 year from our very first show, is gonna be a great thing
Exactly 1 year.
for you and for the
Coincidentally,
rest
too,
of
is
the
the
band.
funny thing. Like we didn't even plan for that. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, yeah. I think like you were saying, with all the delays of COVID and us trying to figure out like how we're gonna record with someone and then have things together. We didn't even jam for a longest time, and I think we'll talk about it
Yeah,
on Jamie's podcast. And just as far as like having a fill-in drummer and then finding a more full-time person in the mix. So again, a lot of those details are going to be chatted on his podcast, but I think that's enough for this one for Endgame. Last piece of the puzzle for this podcast, Wolfgang, as you know, is a favorite mosh story to send us off, whether that was something you did at a LDP fest or something you saw off of any of the festivals that you went to.
favorite mosh moment was at Scoped 2 year
Oh, fuck.
to when I was moshing to Above the Law and when Luca did the guest spot for us and he fucking kicked me in in the head doing a cartwheel off the stage. That is
Clipping that
hands down
moment here.
got my ass beat. But that is yeah, being in Calgary, like during my own band during an end game set. moshing to my own fucking band, to our own band, my own song, and I got my ass beat. Like, it's funny. You watch the set and you just like you can see how just like stunned and just dazed I am after it, but you can also just see how like stoked I am, like crawling out. Like,
it is very true. Because I remember
I just go down.
Pass the mic, Luca kills it, and then it like obviously he didn't intend for that to happen, but does the lanky ass cartwheel. You get hit, you come up, and you're like, "Whoa!"
Luca's shoe immediately goes to the back of my head. I like go just down. That shit also.
Luca needs to tie his shoes. There is too many clips of Luca losing his shoes and people having to give it back to him. Tie your shoes, Luca. Come on, brother.
Tie your damn shoes. Bro.
Tie your damn.
Tie your damn shoes. No, yeah, that, and you just like see me like crawling out of it, but I just have like the biggest like shit-eating grin on my face, just so stoked up on it, just like, yeah, Luca just kicked me in the shit in the back of the head and just rocked my shit. This is great. I also remember I absolutely decimated my like shin during that, and my mosh was just off for the rest of the day, but I was just like, worth it.
Worth it. That was a very fun show. I really wish that we could be doing something for.
I miss that show. I miss all the Dare Boys. I miss that. I miss all that shit.
Yeah, that was a very fun time. I would highly recommend you go look at all those sets, the Endgame sets, if you're into that. Those have a series of stories per set. Maybe we could do that in a future episode. Anything you want to plug here, Wolfgang, before we end it?
No. No.
Well, follow.
I'm drawing a blank. I'm tired.
Well, your handle on Instagram or Twitter or whatever.
Follow me to see massive ass pics from me on Twitter at Master X Chiller, and then go see all my cool merch at fucking X the New Faith X
on Instagram.
Instagram.
And go support Wolfgang's Depop and get those.
Buy my shit.
Yeah, let's clear those tubs and make room. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Sell
Wolfgang.
enough shirts so I can buy more OG Biohazard merch.
Yes.
But anyways,
let's make it happen for our boy.
Yeah, hell yeah! Thanks for the podcast interview.
Of course, and I'll probably see you in a couple hours.
Nice to be on a Scoped Exposure podcast finally.
Of course.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I'll see you in like 3 hours.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, man.